I can tell you, I've had stones thrown at me that were large stones about, from mostly the vegan community.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It Takes Grit podcast. Oh my goodness, I am so excited. In the house today, we have Dr. Josh Axe. How you doing, Josh?
Hey, good, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited. And you know what? We've been trying to have this podcast for a while, and I feel like it's the perfect timing with everything that is happening in the world right now. So if those people who are not familiar with you, Josh, tell us, you've got so many accolades, so many credentials. Give us a quick 30 seconds of who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. Well, I'm a doctor of natural medicine. I used to run a functional medicine clinic years ago, but today run a supplement company called Ancient Nutrition, and also a website called drax.com. So for me, I just have a big passion for helping people learn how to use food as medicine. And then with my supplement company, I want to just offer the world's healthiest ancient products, everything from probiotics to collagen to bone broth to mushrooms like reishi and lion's mane to herbs like turmeric and ashwagandha. So that's really, I'm about teaching people how to use food and herbs and supplements to help them get healthy.
That's amazing. And was it from a personal experience or something that happened to you? Why have you had such a desire to help other people?
Yeah, my desire really stems from, as you said, a crisis in my family. My mom growing up, and my entire family, we were really into fitness and health. Well, I'll just say fitness. So my mom was my gym teacher in elementary school. She was a swim instructor. My dad was a weightlifter and a semi-pro water skier. So we were really active. But at 40 years old, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was just so shocking to us because she looked so healthy. And we lived in what I call kind of the medical model at the time. And anytime we were sick, we immediately just turned to drugs because we didn't know there was another way. So when my mom got that diagnosis, she went and had a mastectomy. She went through rounds and rounds and rounds of chemotherapy. And Rebecca, one of the things I can remember still to this day is seeing my mom's hair fall out, remembering just how sick she got, and thinking to myself as a kid, like, there's got to be a better way. And my mom was eventually diagnosed as being cancer-free and healthy. But what was kind of shocking was she really seemed sicker than ever after going through all those treatments. She got put on antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs. She started taking, all kinds of different medications. And this went on for 10 years. Finally, 10 years later, I'm in school about to graduate and open up my functional medicine clinic. And she called and said, hey, I've got bad news. I've just been diagnosed with tumors on my lungs. They want to do surgery. What do I do? And I flew home back to Ohio where I grew up, and we sat down and we prayed together. We talked it through, and we felt really led to take care of her all naturally. And so with my mom, we started having her juice vegetables. We had her start drinking bone broth, using mushrooms like reishi, having her use herbs like astragalus and all of these things, and turmeric. And so we followed this protocol. And after 4 months, she went back to her oncologist, redid a CT scan, and they said their exact words were, "This is highly unusual. We don't typically see this, but the tumors have shrunk in half. We want to see you again in 9 months." Went back again, and they shrunk more. And then today she's in complete remission. And that was probably about 14 years ago. But yeah, my now she's in the best shape of her life. She's run 5Ks. She water skis. She just feels great. And so, I really took what I learned with my mom and I applied that into when I was in practice, applied it there, and just said, you know what, I want to help people avoid this sort of heartache. I want to help people get healthy using food. And so that's a big part of, but yeah, that experience is sort of what led me into becoming a doctor that really focuses on the holistic side of medicine.
That's amazing. And, I'm a big advocate for, food is medicine, feeding your body good nutrition. If you feed your body good food, your brain's going to function better. You're going to feel better. Why do you think, you kind of touched on it, and I want to mention it, that, your mum was put on, depressive medication, anxiety. Why do you feel like so many people are struggling with depression and anxiety in our environment that we live in today?
Well, I think there's a couple factors. I think one factor would be diet and nutrition. I think when you look at the depletion of nutrients in our soil today, there's less magnesium, there's less electrolytes, there's less, there's less of everything, when we're talking about nutrients. And there's, and there are actually studies linking to things like magnesium deficiency and other nutrients to depression. So I think that's one. I also think we're not moving a lot. There's studies showing that activities, everything from yoga to running, helps improve your mood and helps with relieve anxiety. So I think that's part of it. The other thing that I really focus on is the emotional and mental and spiritual side of our health. I think that, and a lot of this, what I'll teach is it'd be considered ancient Chinese or ancient Asian medicine. But, there's no doubt that emotions cause physical illness, but also, things that are going to cause emotional issues are going to be when we don't know what our true purpose is in life, when we lack an identity, and a lot of that happens to identity issues tend to be due to, what happened in terms of your relationship with your parents, and so, I think those are obviously really, really big things. I can say for my mom, for an example, she had a lot of fear and worry. And according to Chinese medicine, the emotion of worry actually causes stagnation or lack of movement and disease to build up in the breast area where my mom had breast cancer. And then the emotions of, and just to give a few more of these, like the emotion of grief or being hurt in the past or unforgiveness and not letting those things go, that affects your immune system. That affects your lungs and your colon. That's related to autoimmune disease. So Rebecca, almost anybody that has a medical condition, I can, and I'm not doing anything special. This is ancient practitioners for thousands of years. But if somebody has a condition, I pretty much know at this point why they have it. And it's due to a combination of diet, but the bigger part than diet is this sort of emotional health response. So like if somebody has Hashimoto's thyroiditis, a form of hypothyroidism, it's a combination condition. It's a combination of worry and a combination of somebody has things going on in their past and they haven't let go of them. And so, because that's the autoimmune part, the other part affects the thyroid, and that's what's causing that condition. So to truly heal somebody, yeah, we got to change diet, and there are herbs that'll help both of those things. But people also need to go back and address, what's my purpose? What's my identity? And also, why am I experiencing these negative emotions, and starting to instead start to foster the opposite, positive emotion. So if somebody is living in a state of fear, they start living in a state of faith instead. That's how someone's going to fully heal.
Yeah, and especially if you start to feed your body, like if you're already in a state of fear and anxiety and you feed yourself like a hamburger or you have fast food, you feel worse. Like it's a moment where you feel good because you like the taste, but it's that aftermath. And then you get more anxious, you have more anxiety, then you go for more bad food. And it's kind of like that cycle. It's amazing what good nutrition can do for your body. I'm like, it's a game changer.
It is. And what you're saying too, this sort of vicious cycle, especially when you're overeating the carbs, because your pancreas has to deal with that, which is related to the emotion of worry, and your adrenals have to deal with it as well, because you're giving your body something to where you're saying, I need more energy. And so you're right. I mean, especially the excess carbs, those are affecting two of the organ systems that are just going to cause you to live in a state of more fear and worry.
Yeah, it's funny you say about the soil being different now, because people say, well, I've been taking supplements for the last like 7 years. I thought that if you take protein shakes, you're going to look like the Incredible Hulk and you're going to get really muscly. But you know what? We all have these preconception ideas in our head. And people say, well, why do you need, supplements? Can't you get it from real food? And it's like the amount of food that you'd have to get the same nutrition value that we did 20 years ago, because the nutrition is different. What do you say to people when they're like, I don't need supplements, I want to eat real food?
Yeah, well, number one, I say, great, eat real food. That's step number one. Supplements are for supplementing an already healthy diet, ideally. And so I totally agree, that I think people should focus on food first. And listen, I think it is possible. I just think it is very rare and unlikely today. And I'll throw myself in there. Like Chelsea and I live a mile away, actually less than a mile from Whole Foods Market. We shop there and we shop at Sprouts, those two retailers and local health food stores. That's where we buy our produce. It's a lot of organic, but at the same time, we still take supplements. Like I've done micronutrient tests on myself and I'm good in most things, but there's like one or two that are typically a little short, but I've done in the past, not today because I don't operate my clinic anymore, but in the past, I've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tests on patients. And most people, 80%, are deficient across the board in a large number of nutrients. And I've seen the data, I've seen the blood work. And so, all that being said, I would say, yeah, ideally, if you can go to your local farmer's market and buy food and you know that their soil is very nutrient rich, they're doing all organic, and then they're going out and doing the right type of fertilizer where they're having animals graze in the pasture and defecate and urinate and build up topsoil and the whole thing, that's fantastic. But the truth is, for most of us, even when you're shopping at a farmer's market, even when you're shopping at some of these health food stores, unfortunately, a lot of the foods from health food stores today, even more so than even, bigger retailers, but they're shipped in from places like Mexico and like China and other countries where the soil is even more depleted. So anyways, all that being said, I think supplements also are for something you're not already getting in your diet. Most of the supplements I personally take today, Rebecca, they're kind of foods. Like I take a supplement called bone broth protein. It's a protein powder from bone. It's bone broth in powder form. And I take that. That's what I use in replacement of all other protein powders. And I get that because I don't drink bone broth regularly when I know I need it, because I need collagen and all the nutrients in bone broth that our ancient ancestors got. I take vitamin D in the winter or days I don't get sunshine, because I know that I should be getting that vitamin every day. And same goes for certain types of probiotics. Like I know I need those every day. So even myself, I literally eat healthier than any person I know. I still take supplements.
Yeah, I eat super healthy, but I still know that I'm not getting all of the nutrients that I need. And if I can just have my healthy shake in the morning that already has all the nutrients in, I know it's going to happen. I looked at your Instagram, and by the way, guys, if you're not already following Dr. Josh Axe on Instagram, you should. I love all of your graphics that you have. I want to talk about nutrition myths. I was the classic person who thought that if you ate carbs that you got fat, if you ate after 6 o'clock, you would get fat, like all of these different things. Like I was like heavy on the myths. What do you find most people are confused about when it comes to nutrition and these myths that people are literally living by and aren't even real?
Right. So the first myth, and this might actually even surprise somebody, but there isn't one diet for everybody. I don't think everybody should be on a keto diet. I don't think everybody should be vegan. I don't think everybody should be paleo. I don't think there isn't one diet for everybody. According to thousands of years of traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, biblical medicine, all these different forms of medicine, there isn't one diet for everybody. We should be eating to a degree based on, our own imbalanced patterns, and also seasonally. Those two things are very important. So for instance, in the wintertime, when it starts getting cooler, we want to eat more warming foods. And we want to eat more foods that support your upper digestive system. So eating things like pumpkin and squash and sweet potato and beef and, those sort of things. Like that's ideal that time of year. Now, when the summer rolls around, we want to be eating foods that are more cooling in nature, things like coconut water and watermelon and more fruits and more salads. Whereas you don't want to eat a lot of salads in the winter. They're actually too hard on the digestive system, versus your body's better able to handle salads and greens spring and summer. So all that being said, we should be eating seasonally, and in addition to based on our conditions. Now, a lot of people would immediately assume, Rebecca, that vegetable juice and salads are healthy for everyone, but it is completely not true. Vegetable juices and salads are not healthy for people with digestive issues. It's not healthy with people with inflammatory bowel disease. People with autoimmune disease shouldn't be eating salads and doing much vegetable juice. And by the way, there are probably a few types of vegetable juice that would tolerate better, and I'll share that in a second. But all that being said, raw things are harder to digest, and you want things that are warming and already somewhat broken down for people with digestive and immune-related conditions, versus if somebody has more of a heart-related condition or inflammation that's in their cardiovascular system or needs to detoxify, they do great with raw. They can do the raw salads, raw juices. All that being said, the biggest myth of all, to me, hands down, is that, hey, there's one diet for everybody. And how often do we see this? Sometimes people will do a keto diet, and some people are saying it's the greatest miracle diet of all time. And other people are like, this did not work for me. You know why? Because it wasn't for you. Like some people do it just, so that's the thing that I think everybody needs to realize is, hey, what's going on in my body and what diet's best for me? And I think the best place to find that is through seeing maybe an acupuncturist or somebody that practices more functional medicine, or researching online, typing in your symptoms and then typing in TCM or Chinese medicine and look, like if you have hypothyroidism, look up hypothyroidism, Chinese medicine diet, and you'll find a lot of the ancient ways of eating for those conditions.
Yeah, that's really important. And everybody is different. Everybody's system is different. So everyone's going to need something that's tailored towards them. There's a lot of my audience that, I struggled with an eating disorder in my teens. And I know that a lot of people have come through that same experience. And we have this negative and massive fear about carbohydrates. It's like carbs are bad, don't eat carbs. And I want you to explain scientifically, because I can say one thing, but why should people eat carbs, and why will carbs actually get you results?
Yeah. So, and I don't, just so you know, I'm going to be explain this the best I can, and also say, I agree with you, but not always. So again, I think for most of the time, people should be getting carbs again. And I've written a book about keto diet, and I think the keto diet is good for a certain type of person who is, there would be clinically obese, maybe brain and neurological disorders would also fall in there, or having conditions like epilepsy. Like those people do very well on that diet. I think everyone else should be getting some carbs. It's just all about balance. That's the thing I find so much, Rebecca, is, one of the issues that people have that tend to be vegans and vegetarians is they are way over consuming carbohydrates. One of the things that happens sometimes when people go keto or paleo is they're not getting enough that maybe support their body. So I think that, when we're looking at this, I think that we should be getting carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, though, are best consumed earlier in the day, and you don't want to be getting them typically at dinner and before bed. I think ideally having carbohydrates for breakfast and lunch, that's when we should be getting our carbohydrates. And the ideal carbohydrates are fruit, especially berries. Blueberries, raspberries, also things like figs, but doing fruit that's very nutrient dense, those are the number one carbohydrates, followed by things that are also nutrient dense and high in beta carotene, like carrots, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, and pumpkin. Like those are amazing. So for people that also want to stay paleo and also eat foods that are really anti-inflammatory, I love the squashes, the pumpkins, the sweet potatoes, that family, beets and carrots, and then doing loads and loads of berries. That's ideal for carbs. And then if people want to go beyond that and get more carbohydrates, if somebody's an athlete and working out, a little bit of sprouted grain rice, a little bit of, quinoa or oats. I do want to say historically, people consumed grains that were sprouted or were fermented via like a sourdough fermentation or something like that, because when grains are consumed and just, taken right off the plant, they tend to be a little harder to digest. Like in ancient times, they would lay out oats and let them dry in the sun and sprout. And then they would put them in a big pot and cook them overnight and even let them ferment over a few days. And they would do either porridge, or it's called congee in China, where they would actually have this long cooked rice. So I know that might be more detailed than everybody wants to hear, but I think that grains partly got a bad rap, and because people were not preparing them properly. But I do think, again, I think there's just a balance there with carbs. I think more often than not, though, people overconsume them. But there's no doubt in the fitness community, now there's a fear related to carbohydrates, and it's all about getting those good, healthy carbs, especially berries.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, just explaining that. You can think, look, carbohydrates are still in berries. I'm even like, growing up, I'd be like, I would eat berries, but I'd be like, oh no, carbs. But I wouldn't understand that there's actually carbohydrates in berries as well. So right now we are in the middle of an interesting epidemic with the coronavirus. I know you kind of spoke on your Instagram about staying like immune health. So what can you do from home to keep yourself healthy and your immune system intact to not necessarily prevent you getting the coronavirus, but at least giving you the best shot to making your body stronger and to maybe fight it?
Well, right now I'll say this. So I'll just talk generally speaking about immune health. And immune health is so important. Here's one thing I'll say. Immune health starts with gut health. This is something a lot of people aren't talking about, but 70% of our immune system, we probably heard this quote, or maybe you've heard it before, 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. So what does that mean? If our immune system is going to be healthy, our guts need to be healthy. Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, all health begins in the gut, including your immune health. So I think it's really important that people consume a few certain foods. One, bone broth, okay? And specifically chicken broth. It is the most nourishing to your gut. And whether you're doing that in a powder form in a smoothie, as a supplement, or you're making your own homemade bone broth at home, but we should be getting the protein found in bone broth, collagen. We should be getting that in our diet regularly. The other thing would be probiotics, and I don't just look for any probiotics. I look for probiotics that have what are called soil-based organisms. These are the type of probiotics that are found in the soil today. Our ancient ancestors would farm, they would take carrots and beets, they would wash them off. But even if you go, think about this, if you go and buy carrots today, there are still little brown specks embedded to the carrots. Like these carrots aren't neon glowing unless they're the baby carrots, I guess you peel and then they spray with chlorine. But outside of that, those brown specks are soil-based organisms, and they're the most powerful probiotics in the world, in my opinion. So when people are buying a probiotic supplement, they should always go and search for soil-based organism probiotics, or to shorten that, SBOs, right? SBO probiotics. That's what I look for. That's what I personally consume online. So again, bone broth, number one, probiotics, number two, and then vegetables and fruits high in vitamin C. The vegetables high in vitamin C and nutrients are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, bell peppers, cabbage. Those are the highest in vitamin C. And then the fruits highest in vitamin C are going to be citrus fruits, lemon, lime, grapefruit, oranges, kiwis, strawberries, papaya. These are all really, really rich in vitamin C. So I would say the ideal diet for people for strengthening your immune system is going to be bone broth. It's going to be the vitamin C rich vegetables and fruits, probiotic rich foods like sauerkraut. Miso soup is fantastic. And according to ancient Chinese medicine, the most immune boosting foods are foods that are light yellow or white in color. So think about this. And you'll appreciate this because your mom might have done the same thing for you. When I was not feeling good as a kid, my mom always gave me two things: chicken soup, and she'd give me like ginger ale or 7-Up. Now, where did my mom get that idea? Why do moms give their kids these remedies today? This is over 4,000 years old. In ancient China, they found that chicken broth was the number one food for supporting immunity, and ginger herbal tea, ginger was the number one herb for supporting immunity. And they found across the board then that foods that were light yellow in color were the most supportive for the immune system. So think, chicken broth is light yellow, ginger is light yellow, garlic is light yellow, another immune booster, miso for miso soup, onions, like these are all immune boosters. And so getting more of those foods are all going to support immunity. And then, let's talk about herbs and spices and essential oils and these things as well, and supplements. I think supplements, again, I mentioned before, I still think getting bone broth and collagen is great. I think probiotics. I also think the herbs, echinacea is great for your immune system. Elderberry. Now that's interesting. There's a little backlash on elderberry recently where I saw this physician post that elderberry causes something called a cytokine response, which essentially means, hey, there's a little bit of inflammation activation in your body. Just so you know, that's normal. Listen, there's bad inflammation and there's good natural inflammation. When your body creates an immune response to go and break things down or attack something, it has to create a little inflammation. And it's not bad inflammation. It's good your body's acting. So anyways, I love elderberry, love echinacea. Those are two of the most powerful. In addition to those, just a couple other herbs, andrographis and astragalus were two used in ancient Chinese medicine. And then in terms of the nutrients, here are the most important nutrients for your immune system, especially if you're buying a vitamin and supplement. Number one, vitamin C. It's known as the immune system vitamin. When buying a supplement, though, make sure it has foods on it and herbs like astragalus and oranges and, acerola, cherry, and amla berry. These are vitamin C rich foods. Like, make sure when you're buying a supplement, it is very high quality and has food in it. So vitamin C. Number two, vitamin D. Now get out in the sun when you can. Okay. If the sun's out, take a walk. You're getting your vitamin D that way. But if you're not getting sun that day, absolutely take vitamin D, typically 5,000 IUs daily. The next one is zinc. Zinc is known as the immune system mineral. Zinc is also important for your gut health. In fact, it helps with a condition called leaky gut, which also is connected to your immune system. So doing about 30 milligrams of zinc a day. And the other would be selenium, which is found in Brazil nuts, kind of light yellow when you look at the color actually on the inside of a Brazil nut. But anyways, all that being said, those are the most important nutrients. And then essential oils I love thyme essential oil is very good for your respiratory tract, frankincense oil, lemon oil. Those are some of the most powerful, I would say. Oil of oregano if somebody's not feeling the best. But I think for our immune system, we should think about this is that first, here's the thing to know. Like, I think our medical society today, here's what they want people to believe. You're a victim. There's nothing you can do. Like, people, when there has been throughout history, anytime there's been an outbreak of a virus or whatever, the media drives fear. The pharmaceutical companies drive fear in people. And here's the craziest thing to me about this whole thing. According to a recent medical study, 60 to 80% of all doctor visits are stress related because of the emotions of fear, worry, and anxiety. So like, we have the media today and these companies that are driving all of this fear, making everybody more ill, versus if we said, hey, we're going to give you hope, we're going to love on you, and then we're going to teach you practical information on how to strengthen your immune system. Here's the other thing too. Like, a lot of these foods, even some drugs, like a lot of these don't necessarily kill viruses. Your body does. That's the whole thing. Your body, like turmeric doesn't actually heal you. Vitamin C doesn't heal you. Like, if I cut my hand right now, like, it's going to heal, not because I have vitamin C. Now, can it help? Yeah, it's a building block, okay? But your body heals itself. So what we should be thinking about anytime, if we want to protect ourselves in the future or heal ourselves now, we should be saying to ourselves, I'm going to strengthen my body, my own immune system, so then my own body is able to then kill whatever it has to kill. I know that was a long tangent and I spoke a long time, but that's what the ancients, the most brilliant, medical physicians throughout history, that's the way they thought.
I agree. And it's like Jim Rohn says, the only place that you have to live is your body is the only place that you have to live. And so like, hey, you want to look after that. And that's done by feeding your body good nutrients. And if your body is working efficiently because you've been feeding it good foods and, supplementing it with things that you're missing out on, it's going to be able to fight diseases and viruses much better than if you were just sitting down all day eating fast foods and not getting, all of your vitamins and minerals in. So important. I think there's a big controversy right now with, there's a big divide with people who eat meat and people who don't eat meat, and making sure that you're getting the nutrients in. I went pescatarian about a year ago, not for anything diet related. I just didn't want to eat an animal anymore. But I make sure that I'm very on my protein, because I know that a lot of vegans and vegetarians don't always get their protein in. You talked about bone broth as well. Is there something else that's a supplement that you could have if you're obviously not going to drink bone broth that's from an animal? And why do you feel like we've got such a divide right now? Because some things, like you said at the beginning, things don't work for everybody. Some people are going to be vegan, some people are going to be vegetarian, whether it's a diet thing, whether it's just a humane thing that they want to do. And why do you think that we're having such a big controversy, and what's your thoughts on it all?
Well, yeah, they're obviously listen, I can tell you, I've had stones thrown at me that were large stones about, from mostly the vegan community. But all that being said, listen, I think somebody can be certain types, but here's the whole thing. Like, for myself, so much of this comes down to my spiritual belief system. And I'm not asking anybody to have the same belief system I have. But for me, like, I believe that I have a God that created me, that loves me more than anything in the world, and that is for me, not against me, who wants to see me win. Like, I think about God like this. Like actually, my wife is 37 weeks pregnant now. So we're about to have our first child. And all that being said, like, I know when I have that child, like, I want to see, like, our future daughter, like, I want to see her happy. I want to see her thriving. I want to see her loving her life. And I'm for her. Like, I'll do everything I can in my power with the principles, the way the world is set up, to help her succeed in life. Okay. So I think I need to start there to say, that's how I believe God cares about us. And a lot of us kind of don't have a close relationship with him. All that being said, like I start with the Bible a lot of times. And in Genesis 9:3, God says to Noah, hey, you know what? Now, in this circle of life, the way this is set up, you can, eat meat. That's what he says. You can go and look that up. So for me, that's where, but then I'm reading throughout it, and there's very specific ways that you raise animals and stewarding the earth and being kind to them and loving them. Like for myself, just so everybody knows, I co-own 5,000 certified organic acres of land where I do regenerative agriculture. We grow CBD hemp. I grow moringa. We grow elderberry. We have yaks, water buffalo, zebu, Uriel gazelles. It's a type of mountain goat. We have sheep. We have chickens. Anyways, all that being said, like I practice regenerative agriculture and we care for our animals. They have thousands of acres to roam on. We do fresh spring water that we actually alkalize. We do reverse osmosis with. So like they have this amazing, actually it comes right from the spring, and we send it through this filter. And so like we take care of the animals in a very specific way. All that being said, I still eat meat. I just believe in proper stewardship. Now, all that being said, now here's what I believe about meat. Some people need it more than others. And I also believe, some people probably overconsume meat, but I think almost everybody should be getting some form of animal protein. And it's just because of the way that we are living in our world today. I'll give you an example. The number of women, you'd be shocked, the number of women today who struggle with having weak, in Chinese medicine, we call it undernourished blood. Okay. Weak blood, because when you're on your monthly cycle, the blood loss coupled with not getting certain B vitamins and nutrients regularly creates weak blood. That's the biggest thing. If you're feeling fatigued really regularly, sometimes it's thyroid and adrenal, but just as often it's a form of anemia, and it might not show up on a blood test, but it's weak and undernourished blood. And the most blood building foods are actually going to be liver from animals. It's going to be things like grass-fed beef. It's going to be chicken. It's these foods nourish the blood. And yeah, beets are okay. They're probably the next best food. Spinach and green leafy vegetables are probably the best after that. But, I think that there are just nutritional deficiencies. People are really deficient in B vitamins because our body uses up B vitamins when we're stressed. Okay. So we live in a more stressed out, sympathetic state than any civilization ever. And because of that, it actually requires more meat. Literally, the more stress you have emotionally, probably the more you actually need meat, because they're by far the richest in these unique types of B vitamins, including vitamin B12, known as the energy vitamin. And so all that being said, for me, it's not about not eating meat that, like, for me, it's more about, I want to help a sick person get well. Like if my mom was sick or my wife wasn't feeling the best, like whether it's a meat or a vegetable or a nut or a seed or whatever, I just am going to put together the perfect meal that's going to be most nourishing and healing for my wife. Like that's how I'm focused. And so that being said, to answer your second question was, so forms of collagen. If you're a pescatarian, do fish collagen, Now, I do think there's benefits in doing multiple types of collagen. I do a collagen supplement that has many different forms of collagen, from wild fish, from grass-fed beef, from pastured chicken, from something called eggshell membrane, which is one of the most powerful forms of collagen. But I think, do what you can. If you're completely unwilling to do meat, your next best option is consuming foods that are adaptogenic and that support stem cell production. According to Chinese medicine, those foods are going to be very dark in color, and they're also going to be, it's berries. Berries are going to be up there. Mushrooms will be very high on the list. Shiitake, maitake, reishi, those are probably the highest. Those mushrooms are going to help. Certain herbs, holy basil, ashwagandha, Rehmannia is probably one of the most well-known in ancient Chinese medicine, but doing these herbs to help you. But really, it's just eating a lot of berries and a lot of mushrooms and herbs. And then some vitamin C. Vitamin C rich fruits I mentioned earlier. The kiwi, for example, would be a really good one. But those are going to be the people's best bet if they're unwilling to eat meat.
Yeah, I think it's important just to say that you have a whole agricultural area. It's like, hey, just at least know when you're getting your meat from, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
meat that's been,
Oh,
fired up with all sorts of crap in it. And it's like,
yep.
you got to make sure that you know where it's coming from. And if you know how the animals died, at least that you can make a decision to say, I want to eat this or not. Because I think the thing is sometimes we're just oblivious to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know the life that animals had. It's probably had a really shitty life, stuck in a cage. It's been filled with antibodies, and then you're eating it. But the way that you're doing
Agreed.
it, know that you've at least had some love from that animal, and it's been killed humanely.
Totally.
I agree. All right. Lastly, I just want to ask you one final question, because we've spoken so much about nutrition, which is amazing. But why is exercise so important? How does that play a role? And why do you have to move your body, I think, every single day?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Movement is important. They say that sitting is the new smoking. And for so many people, we sit all the time. I think that the other thing is too, I think we really want to be getting a lot of forms of movement in ideally. I think as people age as well, you want to have strength, you want to have mobility, you want to have stability, and but you also want to support your cardiovascular system. That's a lot of different things. But anyways, all that being said, what exercise does is it improves circulation. We have organ systems and cells all over our entire body. And if you're not moving, your body has a hard time getting nutrients and blood to those areas. So I think that's a really important thing to consider, is you're actually, in a way, just like you nourish yourself when you're eating food, there's a form of nourishment that takes place when you exercise, because your body now is circulating all of these nutrients, getting more blood flow to areas, and it absolutely strengthens even your immune system to a degree. There is some help there that happens. But I think exercise is important as well, because we were created to move. I mean, if you don't move, if I don't move or exercise for a day, and I'm not saying, hey, going out and doing a really hour-long workout, but if I don't get outside, at least walk during the day, I wake up the next morning, my joints are stiff. Like I just, not super, but enough to where I'm like, okay, I did not move today. Again, the whole thing is we were created to move. And listen, there are so many studies on exercise showing it improves our mood. A lot of people don't know this. One of your top neurotransmitters, a good mood hormone called serotonin, actually 90% of that is released in your gut, which is kind of crazy, but it's released during exercise, a lot of it. So like a lot of hormones are released during exercise. And so if you want to combat depression, anxiety, fear, worry, exercise is important for that. It's important for longevity. It's important for, again, bringing blood flow and nutrients to your whole body. So of course, I mean, I think it's a really big deal that we keep moving. And I think as well, I think that doing a combination of different exercises, according to Chinese medicine, we should vary up our exercise. In the winter months, we should do more weight training and still movements, things like yoga. And in the summer, we should be doing more things like cardio, outside moving more. So different actually seasons require your body does better with different forms of movement. But again, weight training and yoga, especially fall through winter through early spring, and more cardio and being outdoors in the summer.
I love that. It's like you've already got your year planned out with exactly what workouts you're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
That's great.
That's right.
Wow. Well, you've added so much value today. I know that the audience is going to absolutely love this. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Josh Axe. Tell everybody, where can they find you? Where can they follow you for more of your incredible information?
Sure. Well, for starters, if something piqued your interest here, feel free to just Google my name. If you want to learn more about probiotics or bone broth or collagen, just search Dr. Axe probiotics, Dr. Axe hypothyroidism, or whatever you have. Just search my name. And I've written thousands of articles and done many YouTube videos on different topics. You can find me on social media on Facebook or Instagram at Dr. Josh Axe. And also I've written several books. I wrote a new book recently called The Collagen Diet, going through. It's great for actually vegans or vegetarians wanting to know how do I boost my own collagen production? It's good for meat eaters too, but I have books on Amazon too and bookstores nationwide. But I want to say, Rebecca, hey, thanks so much for having me on. I love your message and what you're teaching. And again, just honored to be on today.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to put all of Dr. Axe's information in the link below. Make sure that you go and give him a follow on Instagram. Give him lots of love. Of course, give us a review on this podcast. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye guys. Bye.
It was just a very awkward exchange because here I am. We was our first night, sleeping together. I've got to bolt out of here. She's still in bed, and I was just kind of like, okay, so.